In 600 years, he had never seen rain. For a century, they called him a madman. For a century, he built anyway. And now, as water began falling from a sky that had never known clouds, Noah realized something terrifying. Everyone else realized it too. This is the story of the flood. This is the story of the end of the world.
Welcome to Bible Revelations. Animation.
The earth in Noah's time was full. Humans had spread across every land mass, built cities, developed cultures. But something had gone catastrophically wrong. The wickedness wasn't occasional. It wasn't isolated. Genesis describes it as constant, every inclination of human hearts bent toward evil. The violence had become total. In this world lived a man named Noah. He had a wife. Tradition calls her Naamah. 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, each married. They worked the land, kept to themselves, and somehow remained uncorrupted. And then God spoke. The message was specific. Humanity would be judged. The earth would be wiped clean. But Noah would be saved, along with his family and representatives of every animal species. He told his wife what God had commanded. They were to build an ark, a massive vessel, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high, over 500 feet in length, 3 decks, a door in the side, a roof, rooms for animals. Noah gathered his sons and their wives. He explained everything. Every kind of animal would come, 7 pairs of some, 2 of others. They would arrive when the time was right. There was going to be a flood. Rain would fall. Water would burst from below. Everything that breathed would die. But there was one problem. It had never rained. In a world without rain, without floods, without recorded catastrophe of this scale, Noah was asking his family to build a ship for a disaster they couldn't imagine. His wife was the first to agree. Then his sons. They started the next morning. Neighbors began gathering, watching as the family cleared ground and laid the foundation. They called out, questioning what Noah was doing. Why build something so enormous? Noah told them plainly. An ark. There was going to be a flood. Water would come from above and below. God's judgment was coming. They laughed. The warning was public. The message was clear. But as years passed and no flood came, the mockery intensified. 1 year, 5 years, 20 years. The ark grew, the family aged, and still no rain. The project consumed everything. Gopher wood, a timber we can no longer identify, cut and shaped. Each plank coated with pitch inside and out to seal against water. The structure followed precise specifications given to Noah. Every day the sun rose without clouds. Every day the doubts grew stronger. Shem asked his father once if he ever doubted. Noah admitted the truth. Every morning when the sun rose clear, he questioned. But he continued anyway because God had spoken. That had to be enough. But for everyone else it wasn't enough. 100 years passed. Neighbors who had mocked Noah in their youth now mocked him in their old age. Their children mocked him. Their grandchildren mocked him. Where was this flood? The ridicule was relentless. But something else was happening. The wickedness around them was accelerating. Naamah watched the growing violence with dread. She knew what it meant. If the flood came, all of them, every person they'd lived among for centuries, would perish. Noah had warned them. For 100 years he had warned them. And then in Noah's 600th year, the animals began to arrive. They came from distant lands, moving by instinct, by divine direction. Pairs of every species walking toward the ark from different directions. Birds flying in formation, mammals walking steadily, reptiles crawling, all converging on one location. Noah's youngest son spotted them first, pointing to the horizon where hundreds of creatures were approaching. 7 pairs of clean animals, 1 pair of unclean. Exactly as Noah had been told, species from lands thousands of miles away, somehow knowing the path, knowing the time. The crowds watched in shock. How was he doing this? Some insisted it had to be a trick, but no explanation made sense. For 7 days they loaded. Noah and his family guided the animals into their designated rooms. Food, massive quantities of grain, dried fruits, hay, stored on the lower deck. Water containers filled and sealed, everything needed for a voyage of unknown duration. Noah called to the crowd one last time. It wasn't too late. They could come inside. There was room for all of them. No one came. The family boarded one by one. Shem's wife looked back, grief written on her face. Her sister was out there, friends, relatives, all choosing to stay outside. On the 17th day of the 2nd month, Noah and his family entered the ark. 8 people, representatives of every animal kind. And then God sealed the door. For 7 days, nothing happened. Outside, the crowds returned to their mockery. They shouted at the sealed door. "Still waiting, Noah?" And then, on the 7th day, everything changed. A rumbling began. Deep, from below the earth. Ham looked at his brothers in fear, asking what that sound was. The rumbling intensified. The wooden beams of the ark creaked. Genesis records it exactly. All the springs of the great deep burst forth. Water exploded from beneath the earth's crust. Subterranean reservoirs fractured open across the planet, and the floodgates of the heavens opened. The sky darkened. Rain began. Gentle at first. Noah stood at the small window, watching in awe. Water, falling from above, something the world had never seen before. Then it intensified. The world had never known rain. Now it poured in quantities incomprehensible. For 40 days, 40 nights, without pause. At first, people ran for high ground. Then they climbed structures. Then they swam. Inside the ark, the family could hear them, screaming, pounding on the wood, begging to get in. But the door had been sealed by God himself. There was no way to open it. Nama broke down, begging for the sounds to stop. Noah held her, helpless. There was nothing he could do. The sounds lasted hours, then stopped. The waters lifted the ark. They rose 15 cubits above the highest mountains. Every land animal, every bird, every person not inside the ark perished. The text is clear. Everything that breathed air, that lived on dry ground, died. 8 people remained. They lived in near darkness. Small windows provided minimal light. The sounds of animals filled every moment. Feeding schedules, waste removal, endless maintenance. Japheth asked his brothers one day, how long had it been? Shem tried to calculate. 40 days of rain. But after that, he'd lost count. The rain had stopped, but the waters remained. They floated for 150 days before the levels began receding. 5 months on an ocean that covered the entire earth. Noah marked the days on wood, keeping track of time. Ham voiced what they all feared. What if the water never went down? Noah reassured him. God had promised to remember them. But when? He didn't know. The monotony was crushing. No land visible in any direction. No way to know if they were moving or stationary. Just endless water and creaking wood. Nama stood at the window one day, staring at nothing but water. She confessed to Noah that sometimes she forgot what ground felt like. On the 7th month, the 17th day, they felt something different. The sound of wood scraping on rock. The ark had stopped moving. Shem shouted to the others. They'd stopped. The ark had come to rest on the mountains of Ark, but water still covered everything visible. 2.5 more months passed. Then, on the 1st day of the 10th month, the tops of mountains became visible. Noah saw it first. Land. After months of seeing nothing but water, there was land. He whispered a prayer of thanks, tears streaming down his weathered face. Noah waited 40 additional days, then opened the window. He sent out a raven. It flew back and forth, finding no place to land, surviving on floating debris. So Noah sent a dove. The dove found nothing. 7 days later, Noah sent it again. This time, the dove returned with an olive leaf in its beak. Fresh, green. Noah took the leaf, his hands trembling. Life was growing again. The earth was recovering. 7 more days. The third dove flight. Japheth noticed first. The dove wasn't coming back. Shem understood immediately. It had found land, a place to rest. On the first day of Noah's 601st year, he removed the ark's covering. The earth's surface was dry, but God said to wait. 57 more days they remained inside, until the 27th day of the 2nd month. Then God opened the door. The same supernatural force that had sealed it now opened it. Noah stood at the threshold and commanded all living things to come out of the ark. They had entered in Noah's 600th year, 2nd month, 17th day. They emerged in his 601st year, 2nd month, 27th day. Shem calculated the days, 1 year and 10 days in the ark. The entire world transformed. The animals left, driven by instinct to spread and multiply, and Noah's family stood on earth that had been completely remade. Noah called his family to help him. Together they built an altar. He sacrificed some of the clean animals as burnt offerings, and God made a covenant. Never again would all life be destroyed by flood. Never again would water cover the whole earth. The seasons would continue, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter. And as a sign of this promise, something appeared in the sky, a rainbow. Light refracted through water droplets in a way the world had never seen before, a reminder in the sky of God's covenant with every living creature. Noah looked up at the colors stretching across the heavens, tears on his face. They were starting over. Nama stood beside him, taking his hand. All of them. The whole world. Noah lived 350 years after the flood. His sons' descendants spread across the earth, repopulating every continent. Every person alive today traces their lineage back to 8 people who stepped off an ark onto a transformed world. The ark itself remained where it landed. Some believe it's there still, preserved in ice at 15,000 feet on Mount Ar-Urat. But the question the story asks isn't about the ark's location. It's about obedience when nothing makes sense. Faith when everyone calls you a fool. Endurance when the wait seems endless. Noah spent 100 years building for a disaster he'd never seen. He waited a year in darkness on water that covered the earth. He trusted a promise he couldn't verify, and he walked through the door when it opened. The flood was judgment, but it was also rescue. Not everyone believed the warning, but everyone had the chance. The door was open for 100 years, until the day it closed.
Before you go, my mom said I can't reach 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove her wrong. These aren't just stories. They're warnings, they're invitations. They're reminders that the doors we ignore today won't stay open forever.